All right, this week on the podcast, I'm joined by Chico Potivin. Chico's been building houses since I think it was the late '80s. He said, guy that I've crossed paths with a lot in my business, being in mortgages. But it was awesome to talk to him about what he got started with, and just some of the things that he's learned along the way, people he's met, some tips that he has. So really, really enjoyed that podcast. I think you'll like it too if you give it a listen. So again, this is the Randy.forcier podcast. You can do me a favor, subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. Appreciate all the support. Thanks again for listening. Here's Chico. All right, Chico, thanks for joining me.
Hey, no problem.
Excited to chat with you. We caught up a little bit. I think was it a football game we were talking about podcasts I've done in the past, and I was like, it's like, you know what? It'd be awesome to have you on, talk about what you do for work. So thanks again.
Not a problem.
So you've been building homes for a while. How long has it been?
Well, started my company in 1987, but I actually wasn't building houses in 1987.
Yeah.
I was buying property and real estate and flipping it and doing stuff. It kind of morphed into building, really, to be honest with you. So
if that was 87, though, we were just talking about when you graduated. So what were you, 20 years old back then?
See,
when did you graduate? 85?
I graduated in 82.
82. So still early 20s.
Yes. Yeah, and that was just about the end of the 80s boom in 87. Yep. And I ended up buying a property like way out in like Livermore Falls on a lake, and it was really inexpensive because everything here was so expensive. So, and I didn't have that type of money back then, and so I bought something out there, and the crash hit, but I rented it, and when the market came around, I sold it later, and I did okay with it. It was just, I got my feet wet with it, let's say.
So what were you doing between graduating high school and then starting this business where you started to buy and sell real estate? What was that gap?
I did a couple things. Well, my father had a grocery store in Old Orchard. You probably know the old Potvin market. And
yeah, actually,
been out of that
connected the dots on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a long time, but I did that. And I took some time off. I worked for a company called Tilcon, which was Pike Industries. They did paving. So I was always kind of interested in, any type of construction and all that. So I did that for a year. I worked for the city of Biddeford for a little while too in the public works department. I thought that was cool. One of the funnest jobs actually was like picking up garbage, to be honest with you. I treated it like a workout. Yeah, it was in the summer. You wake up early in the morning, you get your run done, you paid for 8 hours, and then the rest of the day was at the beach. So it's like the very first day I got on it, because I filled in for someone on vacation. We got the run done fastest than they ever did it before. And the guys were saying, slow down or they'll give us more work. These guys were all kind of unionized and all that. So it's so I switched gears, but I only did that for a short time. It was like a summer thing. And then I ran my father's store, and then I bought it. And then I started reading a lot of real estate books, and I kept reading them. And then I put my foot into it. I bought a 6-unit in Saco, and it was truly a no money down deal. Like you dream about in the books. The guy had an assumable mortgage, and I assumed it, and he financed the rest of it, and he wanted money down. So I said, well, what if I put windows, siding, and a roof on it? Would you consider that a down payment? He said, yeah. Well, the county was having an insulation deal where if you keep it for 5 years or whatever, you didn't have to pay for it. And I had to put a roof on it, so I put it on my credit card. So I bought a 6-unit with no money down.
That's incredible.
It worked out pretty good. So, and then I met the guys that did the work for me on that. They were buying buildings too. So I hooked up with them, and then I said, well, let's start building some houses. Let's get into that. So we got our license to sell modular homes. So we started with that. And we did the first one like way out in like Lovell, Maine. I go, if we really screw this up, I don't want it to be in our neighborhood.
But it's not a bad idea.
It came out great. I mean, it was really kind of a funny deal where the guy had an old mobile home, and he had like this old backhoe, and he said, would you take this for a down payment if I buy a modular from you and all that? And we did. And we had another job where this lady needed a mobile home, and she traded, we did this horse trading like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Everybody won, but that's how you got started. We just had to grind it, but then we started the modular homes, and then we said, well, maybe we'll buy some land and do a subdivision. So we started that. And then it got to the point with the modulars. The whole idea was it was supposed to save time. Like you put the foundation and the earthwork in, and they're building the house in the factory, and then it comes in. But what ended up happening is we got bumped on the line. These guys that were doing 20 houses a year got first priority on the homes. Yeah. And we were sitting there with 3 foundations in and no house. So I said, well, we're going to start stick building.
All right. I just wanted to take 1 second from the podcast to let you know that besides hosting, I also do mortgages. I'm a residential loan officer with Norcom Mortgage in Saco, Maine. If you or anyone you know is thinking about buying a home in 2024 or refinancing as rates are coming down, please feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to help. My contact information is in the description below. Thanks, and back to the pod.
So
how long were you waiting?
Oh God, for months sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That
this guy
messes people's timelines up.
right. So, this whole, dream of getting all the timing down. Yeah, it's great if you're doing 20 homes or they got the capacity to do it, but obviously that didn't work. But, things happen for a reason, and and once we started stick building, it was great because I felt I had more control on the timing and more options to have more different guys frame. If one guy couldn't do it, you have another guy. You're not stuck with this one factory that you're dealing with. So anyway, so we went in that direction. And then, it's, believe it or not, things just started falling my way. There was this project off of Jenkins Road in Saco, and it's called Ryan's Farm. It was kind of like a defunct project where half the units were built, the house, and they were all like starter homes. And they just, everything crashed and it sat there for years. Well, somehow I got hooked up with the owner that took it over, that was holding paper on it, and they financed me on it. And they financed the lots, they financed the house construction and everything. And I did probably 20 houses in there. Then they had another piece of land. They financed my road. I did another 18 in there. So that just took off. So I had all these people lending me money there. And then I had other people. It just kind of fell into place. I mean, it took some grinding. And trust me, these weren't easy. Some of these houses, I call them the ham sandwich house, where you build a house and you make no money, but you get enough to buy a ham sandwich and you get done.
That's so fun. The way you're describing that, where like you're getting people to finance construction and the land, and then you have someone financing the infrastructure. Is that something you're going into those conversations knowing that that's what you wanted? Did it fall in your lap? Because I feel like if I was in those situations, I wouldn't even know what I wanted or how to negotiate those things. Like, was it? Did you ever make any bad negotiations?
I'm not to ask anything, and that's probably a good thing. I just kind of read the room, and these people really wanted to do something. They were stuck with this property. They needed to move it. And I said, well, you're going to have to finance me because I don't have that kind of money to do what you're asking. And once we did 2 or 3, they saw, I was doing exactly, I was, getting it done in a timely manner, getting it sold, paying them back when, with the loans. And we ran great, and then the lumberyard started loaning money, like Hancock Lumber would be loaning money, and they would do house loans for you, the whole thing. So I had that line of credit with those guys. So it just kept kind of rolling that way. And, times changed. Hancock stopped loaning money because some other guys burned them. And so they stopped doing it. So I found another lumberyard that would do it locally. And they've been awesome ever since, but
isn't it amazing how just doing what you say you're going to do, paying people back on time, meeting your timelines goes a long way with people?
Unbelievable. It's just be straight up and just be honest. And it's amazing. Things just kind of fall away after a while, and I mean, I get calls every day to do housing, and I just do spec houses now. That's all I do. Is I got a nice retirement home I build, and I maybe do 5 a year now. And I do some other little real estate stuff on the side, and I sometimes consult with other people too. Some guys that are starting out, and I've been helping them out. But that's
awesome to have someone to reach out to. About the time where you were kind of on your ascension up, I guess, were you ever actively on the job site swinging a hammer and building, or were you doing that all the way through, or were you like at what point did you stop doing that?
Kind of a mix match of it. At first, I wasn't doing it so much. I had my excavators lined up and then my framers and everything. And I kind of started when times got bad, like in 08 and all that. I had an 18-lot subdivision I was doing it with one of your people, Mr. Bergalt. Leo Bergalt was one of my partners on that deal. And the only way we could get out of it, if I had to go out there and physically, I was cutting trees, I was digging holes, I was painting, I was doing whatever I could, because we were pretty deep into that one with Shaw Brothers and all these companies that built the road for us and all that. But so the only way on paper I could do is I had to physically go out and do it. And I did. And I made enough money on the house to get by, and we paid all our debts off. So it worked out good. It built a lot of character, I'll tell you that. But Shaw Brothers told me after that, they said, you know what? We thought you were going to be taking this back. And, anytime you have a project, we will finance you.
Yeah.
You've done, you did exactly what you said you were going to do. You work with us. You didn't dodge us. But yeah, I've done houses from ground up. I did several,
So yeah,
I've done it.
I almost wonder sometimes if these people that are building houses, how skilled they are as actual builders, or if they're just more like managing people. So it sounds like you have the
And that
experience.
can work too. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're a good people person and you surround yourself with a good team, you can build. You don't need to be, it's like the coach. You see coaches that have never played football before and they're great
Yeah.
football coaches. That, it can be. There's no doubt about it. It's good that you've done it, so you've experienced it. But if you're around it enough, you ask questions and you just watch what's going on. I mean, I go to my job sites all the time, and I go pick up the garbage just to watch what's
Check
going
things
on
out.
and see what's being done. I'll do anything, just to be on site and to understand what's going on and make sure I'm not missing anything. But
So your ability to get things done though is what helped you in 2008, because that 18 unit subdivision, that whatever issues you had with that are more of like a timing issue in the economy, like way out of your control, not necessarily like a management thing, but you having to do things on your own. That was just so you didn't have to pay people, right? Because things got really
well,
skinny.
yeah,
Is that
I just couldn't
that was the
afford to
reason?
pay people, right? And
Yeah.
I guess what kind of happened on that. I had done a subdivision earlier, like a year before that, and I ended up flipping about 3/4 of the lots to other builders, and I built on the remaining part, just to basically hedge myself through it.
Mhm.
And it worked out great. Well, these same builders wanted to buy in this other subdivision, so I had almost everything under contract. And then when the market crashed, everybody bailed on me. There was not one contractor that held their ground and kept their contract. They just walked away from it. So I got stuck with 18 lots with nothing going on. Luckily, they did a first-time homebuyer tax credit. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I remember it. What was it,
Okay.
$4,000 that people would get?
Like eight. I think it was like eight.
8,000?
Yeah,
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 that sounds about right. It's
yeah.
funny because I was in the business back then, but it seems like a distant memory. But yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, so that helped a lot. I think I got at least 6 or 7 out of that,
Mhm.
and some retirees. And this project is like behind Pate Motors off of Waco Drive, off of Route
Yep.
1 in that area. It's like
Is it built off the end of Waco?
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
we actually have some good friends that live out there.
yeah.
So okay, that makes sense.
So we did
No,
that, and at the same time, I had 10 condo units in Sanford that were being built. And you want to talk about scary and what banks did back then. I mean, I use pretty much private money all the time now for this reason,
Mhm.
and I don't know if you remember, but when you're doing like, I know this was like an affordable type thing. It was an 8-unit
Mhm.
building in like a duplex. Well, the bank loaned us money and they said, well, like to do any government loans, 50% of the units have to be occupied before we will go with a conventional loan or with these
Yeah.
loans. I said, well, what can you do? They get, well, we'll do a portfolio loan until we get to 50% and then you'll be all set. Well, first 2 we sold immediately. 3 comes in, I get 3 or 4 contracts. I bring them to the bank. The bank says, no, we're calling everybody's notes now because of the economy had crashed. I go, what
Mhm.
about the portfolio loans? No, we're not doing that anymore. I have contracts right here. We're done.
Mhm.
We can get out of this. Didn't want to do it. So we had to basically suffer through that. Got through it,
Mhm.
rented a few out and did what we had to do. When the market came back, we slowly did it and got out of it. But the banks did not make it easy.
You've been through a couple market cycles at this
Oh,
point,
I have.
or,
Yes. Yeah.
or a few,
Yes. Yeah.
and we're getting into one, or we're in the middle of one right now. But how has, like, what's the difference between the cycle that we have now versus some of the other ones that you saw back in like '08, or some of the
Well,
other
I
ones
think
in
the
the past?
difference is people are working right now.
Yeah.
Back then, people were out of work. There was the jobs were, you were scrounging to get work. Right
Mhm.
now, it's the other way around. So as
Mhm.
long as people are working, there's a market. What that market is not. And I think what's hurting it around here is, people retiring in Massachusetts, selling their house for $1.5 million, coming up here, buying something for 500 plus, pocketing that. So it's driving the prices up here, and
I've
I,
seen it.
as long as that train's still running, it's going to be tough up here to get the average person into a home. And I don't even call it affordable housing anymore. I call it like attainable housing. Can you get into a house now? And So I don't think it's the same type of, I know everybody says that it's not the same, but this one really isn't. It's really a different vibe. There's, we need workers, I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of the guys my age and older, we're starting to fade away, and I don't see anybody replacing us,
I know.
and I don't recommend college. I recommend trade schools right now,
Yeah.
and unless you know what you're doing in college, if you're going to be a doctor or
Yeah.
something like that, but that's kind of how I see it flying.
I know it is a lot different. In 2008, like you said, the issue was people were losing their jobs. There was a lot of short sales, a lot of foreclosures, a lot more inventory for people to buy. So when you have this first-time homebuyer tax credit, all these people are actually able to take advantage of it
Right.
because the properties exist. Now everyone has jobs and people are paying their mortgages, and no one wants to sell because they all are sitting on 3.5% mortgages.
Absolutely.
And then
And
you get people
you got to
coming up
sell your
from
house and
Mass
go get
driving
a
up.
mortgage at 7,
No, dude, add $1,000 a month to your payment.
it's a weird storm out there right now. It's a strange thing we're going to have to kind of get through. But there's other factors like for instance, the last like 5 homes I built,
Hmm.
2 of them were tax exchanges for people. They were selling something in Arizona and they needed to buy something around here because they were retiring up here, and they're just going to probably get it and rent it. So they're not really going to sell it. The other ones were people turning them into Airbnbs. So those are not going to go on the market. They're going to stay as an Airbnb. So you're talking, 5 or 6 units that I built that aren't going to be for sale. They're going to be just for, either renting or, for a business basically.
Yeah.
So,
Isn't that wild? The tax exchange stuff is tough too because those people need to get something under contract and buy a certain period of time. So the way that those people view the purchase price they're paying is different than a first-time home buyer coming
way
in, right?
different.
Like, they'd rather overpay to avoid whatever hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax liability, where a first-time home buyer is probably really budget conscious. Like they just can't even compete with those people that are coming in with that 1031 tax exchange money. And then the short-term rental stuff, like those people buy, they're never selling unless things get really bad. So it's a
Or
house, yeah,
something changes in the legislation where they can't do it anymore.
which is possible in some of these towns. But like that's a house that, okay, sure, a first-time home buyer didn't get, but probably they'll never get,
Right,
because they'll
right.
just
It's
those
not really a
people.
first-time home buyer, but the person buying that would have been selling something else that might have been a first-time home buyer
Yeah,
product.
but it's
Yeah.
so you see all these people out here that have multiple properties and just renting them out, and it's good for those people, but it's not great for the people that are trying to break through. And
Yeah,
now I'm
trying to
seeing
move
people
up.
pay,
Mhm.
yeah, and you see people paying 5.25, 5.5 for not much home, and it's wild, to see what people's mortgage payments are. Put some people under contract not that long ago, and I think their payment was going to be like $4,200 a month for, again, like an expensive home, nice home, but like still I can't wrap my head around $4,200 a month mortgage payments. And I've been doing
I
mortgages
can't
for a
either.
while.
And what's sad is just because you can afford it and you're approved for it, it doesn't mean you should be buying it. I mean,
Yeah.
I was at a closing once and I was trying to talk the people out of buying the house I was trying to sell them because I didn't think they were ready for it. Usually like you do like a package for lighting when you're building a house, and you give them like a lighting allowance. Okay. So they go to Home Depot, they buy their lights and all that. Well, I get a call one day. It's like, well, I don't have any money to go pay. Can you give me a check? I don't have money to go buy lights. They couldn't even afford like a few lights. Okay. Now they're buying a house. Well, I try to tell them when I'm sitting at a closing table, I'm saying, look, you got to keep this in mind. You got to get a lawnmower, probably a snowblower. You got to buy drapes. You got to buy, hose. You got to buy stuff for your house. I hope you can do that. And a lot of them can't. You drive by their house, they got blankets hanging in the window. They're
Yeah.
not ready to buy a house yet, but because someone said you're approved, you can do it. And they say, well, if you don't do it now, like, it's going to be just get worse. Well, no, because you could, sometimes renting's better, and
Mhm.
I've always said your house is not an asset until you own it,
Yeah.
until you've paid it off. It's a
Yep.
liability the whole way. You're paying taxes, you're paying repairs. It's a liability. And, on paper, shows as an asset, but it's really a liability.
Yeah.
And the day you're ahead of it where there's more equity than there is, that's when it starts becoming an asset. Then you can use it for things. But so I don't know. People I think they just have to really evaluate their situation. It's like, maybe I should rent a few more years and put
Yeah.
some money away. And if you have the discipline to do that, instead of paying $4,000, you'd be paying, say you're paying 2,000, and could you put that other 2,000 away for a couple years,
Yeah.
and build up some equity, and have some cash and be a little more secure, and wait for that right moment to come by. And it
Hmm.
does, and then people don't think it's going to come and they rush to buy. But, I see that is, it can be pretty painful. Then you're stuck with that house. You're in that house. You're a slave to it,
Yep.
and
Yeah, you can be for a lot of people. And I've seen people make that calculation and decide to continue renting. One of the things I saw a lot of last year is people wanting to rent and not being able to. And that caused some pressure for
yeah,
them to start looking to buy homes. And I think that that's eased up a little bit. I've experienced a little bit with the apartments that I've owned, and it's a little bit harder to find some good tenants. So
right,
we've
right,
had to actually lower our prices a little bit. But there was a time last year where it's like people were good with renting, but then they go look and they want to stay in a certain area to stay in a certain school system, and options are limited. Next thing you know, they're like, well, maybe I'll try to buy a house. And oftentimes it doesn't work out for the buyers in that situation either. But that's at least like one of the things that's crossing their minds. I can't even rent. So I might as well at least look up to buy homes. And honestly, I don't even know what happens to a lot
well,
of those people if they end up moving away or not. But
and that's what happens. I mean, when I had a pretty large piece of property over on South Street with a couple other guys, and we wanted to do this big like a village thing with this different tiers of housing: starter homes, mid-range homes, retirement homes, and it just got bogged up with all this red tape and comp plan not being done and a bunch of other stuff, and it just got basically shelved by the city, and we could have had a really nice project, which would have we were talking next to 500 different units in there that could have been spread out over 350 acres, and it's
is
just
that where the water company is now?
yeah.
So that's just out the window, never happening at this
Well,
point. There's not even.
yeah, there's 350 acres there. I sold the front portion of it to one of my partners, and he's doing a manufactured home park there, and he's almost approved. It's been 3 years, and he's going to he had a workshop last week. He'll probably get final within a month, and he'll be able to get started. I kept the remaining 150 acres in the rear of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I'm doing with it. It's just, I'm sitting on it right now. I have no idea, but I don't have a mortgage on it. So it's not hurting me. It's going to sit there till I figure something out. If the climate's right, I'll probably do something. I feel like if I had something built, it would sell easily, but I'm just not sure how long it would take. I don't want to spend 2 years in the planning office trying to figure something out. And that's one of the biggest deterrents. I think that's what people need to understand is like, it takes forever to get projects through. And, and it's good to take time because you want to make sure you do get it right. And I'm not beating up anybody on that. That's just the way it is. But there is a limit where you've got to streamline some of this if you want housing. It's like, for instance, 58% of Biddeford is in the rural farm district. That's more than half of the whole city.
Yeah.
And if you're going to want to grow and get more housing, you're going to have to expand into that a little bit. And
Are they not wanting to, or
that's the problem. I've talked to several people that are put the comp plan together, and they go, no, we don't want to expand into the rural farm area. You can do some housing, but it's kind of limited on the use you can do. But if you look at Cathedral Oaks and all that, that used to be farmland, and
yeah,
and then it became housing. I mean, you've got to stretch it out a little bit. I'm not saying go eat up every inch of farmland there, but if you want the type of housing, family housing. I mean, I get a call from Jeremy Ray every 6 months or so. Hey, what do you got for housing? I need kids. I don't have kids in my school, in the high school. The lower
we
grades
talk
get
about this
kids.
all the time.
Yeah,
Not only kids, but we're losing teachers that
right.
we
The
have
teachers
taught.
can't even stay for what they get paid. They can't afford a house in
Well,
Bedford.
I mean, I don't know what the numbers are at this point. I forget, but like there are, more than one instance of us making an offer to a teacher to come teach in our district, like a good teacher, and them ultimately passing it to go someplace else because they can't find the housing
Right.
within our district to live and then work. So it's frustrating because everyone talks about how we need more housing, and then you have this plan to build 500 units, and maybe there's other people that have similar things or slightly smaller projects, but it's like, shouldn't we be making it as easy as possible for those people to build? And I
Well,
understand like there's considerations that we have to watch out for, but like 3 years of planning and just like saying ultimately coming to a no, that's frustrating. Yeah.
yeah, well, it just got like forgotten and shelved, and it's like, wow, what happened, and obviously by the time 4 years goes by, there's council changes, planning board changes. We're on our fourth planner since we started, so you've got this jumble of people in and out trying to come into Biddeford and digest it, and you've got all these other projects going on, and it's hard, and I think this is what's going to be hard. I think in the future, most of like planning boards and these committees, they're all like people from Biddeford, like me. I was on the planning board for a while, and and it's good back in the day when you had a 10 lot subdivision and someone's putting a daycare together. But now you've got companies coming in with 500 units, and and to try to digest that as a lay person on the board, that's difficult for them, to
Because that's
grasp.
what it is. These boards are made up of
Just citizens.
people like me, or I mean, I wouldn't say
Yeah,
necessarily you because you have some knowledge of it, but like it's not what their full time job is. This
right.
is just their civic duty, and they're having to digest these big things.
Exactly. It's not easy for them. And, I'll sit there and watch it, and I probably understand it better than most other people. But the other people sitting there, they're like, okay, I don't get this, or they're just overwhelmed with, they drop a project on their table and it's like, how do we even attack this?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. And a lot of these like committees that are, they did a task force committee for affordable housing and all that. And I wish they would have got a bunch of guys like me and some of the other guys that build and say, hey, can you come talk to us, find out what you need to build? We never get a phone call. It just gets to be talked among themselves. And I don't get me wrong. I appreciate the volunteer work. I mean, I've been on committees and all that. I'm on the other side of it where I really don't even know what I should be doing on that committee, but I'm there. I was on like a recycling committee, and I don't know a lot about recycling, but I was on that committee. So I'm in the same boat, and I'm not putting anybody down. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm saying that to get what you want, you got to, ask the people that are doing it, to say, well, what do you need, or what would make it a happy environment for you to put this type of housing up. And if someone asked me that question, my answer would be, well, a lot of it's time, like we're talking about time restrictions. I don't have 3 years in the guts to go through that stuff. You want to streamline this, I'm a player, but if it's not streamlined and it's timing, and then they throw in rules like, okay, 10% if you do 10 units, one has to be affordable. And there's this big, you got to do these mental gymnastics to figure out what that number actually is.
Mm-hmm.
So in the long run, like, let's use a carrot, not a stick. Don't say you have to do this because, if you go to a grocery store and it's expensive, you don't say, well, is there an inexpensive thing to have here? Are you going to force a store to have inexpensive milk as opposed to the regular price milk? You don't force them to. They do it on their own.
Yeah,
So if you made
market
it,
takes hold.
yeah, it's the old stick and carrot thing, but there is a program now that I had talked to Robbie and Code about, and it's basically, if you want to do multi-family in certain zones, you can do 2.5 times of what it is if half of them are affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's something to definitely look at. And if it's under 10, I think under 10 or under 8, I can't remember, you don't have to go in front of the board. It's a staff issue. You'd run it through staff. So I'd be a player at that. That makes sense. You're bringing the character. Now I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to look for things that I can do that with. You do it through staff. Within a few months, you probably could get an approval and get something started.
It seems like those type of projects are it's harder to find places to build those type of projects in town though, right? Because you're looking like in the city with like
It
right
is
in
hard.
that.
I actually put one on a contract last week. Don't know if I'm going to actually build it, but I might find someone to do it. But because of the zone changes, it changes it. Like the first thing I do when a city's doing a zone change, I start scouring to see, all right, what can this property do now? It couldn't do this today, but now it can do this.
Yeah.
So that's how you do it. And they're doing the right things in Biddeford. It's just taking time. They've done a lot of it's being state pushed now. The accessory units are awesome. People should be taking advantage of that. And I've been pushing for this backlot provision since I was on the planning board, and finally they're doing it.
What is that?
Saco, they do like a backlot provision, and they're doing it in Biddeford now. So let's say you have 100-foot, say the zone's 100 feet for your lot, and you have a house on it. But you have enough land out back of your house, you could put another house, but you don't have the frontage because you need 100 per unit. Well, you can either use a shared driveway or a right of way to get out back. So it's kind of like a flag lot out back. So you can do that now. So I got to say, there's probably 50, 60 lots out there right now that are available.
Yeah.
If you
How do you get access to that info though? Is there like a way to, or you just have to like know the lots and look at some maps?
I mean, you just got to keep up with, it's all online. The city has their codes and their ordinances. You read through them. You find out what can work in certain areas, and you look at the table. All right, this zone allows this and this, and and, or find a realtor that knows how to do that. Some of these realtors should be jumping all over that, and I feel bad because that's what's changed a lot is realtors today are different than they were in the past. The past realtors, when they would tell you everything, when you go list something, you would know everything about your house and what you can do with it and all the options. Now it's like they chuck a sign up and just kind of wait around and move it and not tell the person, hey, do you know you got a lot back there you could probably break off? They don't know it, and
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah, and I feel like, wow, you just lost that person probably $50,000 because you weren't astute to know that, but
Yeah, that is a lot of money left on the table if you had a buildable lot that you could break off.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
absolutely.
absolutely is.
What advice would you give to someone that's starting in your business? I mean, I don't even know that a lot of people start in your business nowadays. Like, I don't know if there's young people that are getting
Well,
to building homes.
unfortunately,
But
there isn't a school out there to be a
Mhm,
developer or a builder. You just don't
mhm,
go to college and say, I want to be a developer. Where's the classroom for that? It doesn't exist. You got to kind of do it on your own. But
mhm.
I think the first thing to do is if you really think you got to, first of all, you're going to have a passion to what you're going to do. If you say, look, I really want to build, I like building, go work for somebody that's doing that. And that goes for everything, whether you're selling hot dogs or making a pizza, go work for somebody that's doing that. Don't waste your money and time on trying to scrape by and figure it out yourself. Learn from all that. Learn from what they're doing. Let's say you're at a pizza parlor and you're working there and you think, well, this guy would add this to his menu, or if he would open up a different hour, go in there and understand what they're doing. If you're a builder, same thing. Maybe this guy's working, but this builder's crazy. He's got 10 jobs going on and your materials aren't there and he's unorganized. You say, well, maybe if he only built 3 houses at a time, not 10, and kind of, figure out, and you may do it, not like it and say, I don't know why I would even think
Yeah.
of doing that, but go work for somebody at first. And then while you're doing that, network with people, it's networking is the biggest thing I could ever say is just, it's funny. I was listening to the podcast you guys are doing with Leo there on that
Yeah.
mortgage thing you got.
Yeah.
And I practice the same thing he does. I go to places to pay my checks. I go to Builder Supply every month, pay my check and say, how you guys doing? What's up? And I paid a guy the other day. He was a childhood friend in my neighborhood. We played ball together in the yard and he was telling me his dad wasn't doing good. And we chatted for about 15 minutes on that. And, it was just so good felt good when you leave, and I do that. I use, I don't know, it's the Leo Burgo method, whatever, but it
It's
works
great.
well. But
It's
just going
amazing.
up, yeah, it's amazing. And just that human connection, I mean, I could sit home and pay all my bills on my phone and blah, blah, blah. And then, what do I do? I'm going to go on and watch a podcast, maybe one of yours. I don't know,
Mhm.
but
Hopefully, yeah.
yeah.
But I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
that's what I'm saying. But getting that connection, and then when you're actually out there, like for instance, believe it or not, most of my connections. I mean, I still play basketball 3 nights a week,
I was going to
and
ask you
guys are,
about that. Nice.
man, they're much younger than me, but I still play. But I met a lot of I met two guys I play with. They were like money guys, and they wanted to invest with me and all that. And we've done projects together for years now, and it
Yeah.
works great. And just talking to the younger guys keeps you younger too. And I don't really like their music so much, but
It's awesome.
when we play it, some of that rap stuff's a little too heavy for me. Sorry.
Yeah. That is amazing that you can still get out there and play. Are you in that Legends League
Yeah,
or just like, yeah,
I'm the oldest guy there. I just turned 60, so I'm like the legend.
well, yeah, I know, right? That yeah, there's that whole other level of legend. But I see in the basketball alumni games for Biddeford,
Yeah, I
and
still
just like
jumping on
out and
those.
about playing, so it's good. But
Yeah,
like, there is like a part of networking to that. Besides like the health stuff and the fact that you enjoy basketball, like you have a chance to meet people. And
but
I
to get
think,
that, but to get out of the house at night and get that getaway and to be like a kid again and have that attitude where let's play and joke around and it helps you so much. You get home, you feel so refreshed and nice. Come home, have a bowl of cereal, catch something on TV. Just like you did when you were a kid. It's I don't know, it helps you. It gives you that drive. At least it works for
yeah,
me.
building aside, it's amazing that you can play basketball still. I got to say, because like every time I play basketball, I like pull one of my calves, or I end up like actually injured. So to still be playing basketball, at 60 with these guys, it's
Well, you
pretty
learn
cool.
as you get, as you learn on building, you learn how to play basketball too. I call it skating out there. I just kind of glide. I don't go. I still can shoot pretty decent, so I'll stay outside and you get smarter on the court, a little more trickier, a little more craftier,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
fun, I mean, I used to play with your buddy Chris a lot there, but I don't think he plays anymore.
I know.
No,
Doesn't do it. Hurt his back.
he was
So
good. He was really
he was
good.
great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure he doesn't listen to this. He doesn't
Yeah.
need to hear that. But I won't hear the end of it. But no, he was, and we played basketball a bunch over the years together. And I just have it's been a while since I played, so I
Oh,
always think of all the things that I could do. Basketball is like one of the better workouts, and
oh,
also like still
great
still
workout.
fun from a competitive point of view,
Mhm.
and yeah, just like fun. I could go run and be miserable the whole time, or I could play basketball and have
Well,
fun.
that's why I do it. I mean, running, walking. I'm totally bored. I'm too ADD for that. I need action and movement, and I have to have that. I need that competitiveness, but no, I totally enjoy it. I've got two groups I play with in Kennebunk, and then I play in that Legends League, and then sometimes some open gym in Saco. There's some guys that running. I'll
Yep,
play just about any time you call me up. I was like, want to run? All
I
right,
love it.
good to go. So I
You kind
keep
of
that up.
motivated me.
Yeah. But
So
no, it's just, but I think, yeah, you need like, exercise, and you need that something to get away from your normal job. You can't eat and drink and everything, your job. It's going to just wear you down, so you got to have outlets, and I think that's very important, and I, I think young people come in and got to realize that you got to, it's not all about your work. You got to focus on other things too. And you can't do your family. You can't, I take Sunday off. I don't take any calls on Sundays.
yeah,
I'm kind of old fashioned when it comes to that.
you recharge your batteries that way, and probably
Mm-hmm.
makes you that much better on the other days that you are taking calls or the other days that you are working. So I live by what you said about finding time for fun stuff, whether it's golfing,
You
skiing,
absolutely,
anything. You just got to do it. And if you can meet new people through that whole process, then it has like a double impact of
it
an
does.
outlet, stress relief, to like also things that help you with relationship stuff.
Well, like when I was a kid, my father had a store in Old Orchard. So I had a whole group of friends in Old Orchard. I had groups of friends in Biddeford. So I played at Saco Sport and Fitness for years, basketball. So there's always a group there. So this whole Tri-Town community, I can go in any place and know somebody, and we can chat and just talk shop sometimes or whatever it is. But no, I love what I do. I got a great family, great wife, kids are doing awesome, and life's good. I appreciate every morning I wake up. I appreciate everything I've had. I don't regret. I have no regrets in life at all. And I just really want kids that are coming up the ladder to be able to share what I got, and right now I'm training two other builders, basically, that guys that work for me, they do other, they do plumbing, electrical, and all that. They're building houses now. And you would think that I wouldn't want them to do it, but no, I do want to do it. I'm helping them. I
Yeah,
give them tips. I let them use my subs, and I want them to succeed. So they're going to learn it better than me. The problem now is, like, I got a son-in-law who's in the excavation and everything. He's doing fantastic, but they haven't seen a bad time. Not that I want them to see a bad time, but I want them to
yeah,
understand that it's going to be a day where, someone's going to pull the curtain and say the party's over for a while, and you better
yeah,
be ready for that day, because it happens
yep,
quick. And you don't,
yep,
we could go into a major war. We could just, anything could happen, so
totally.
the black swan events, and so,
Well, I
but
feel like in my business that's what 2023 was, and honestly,
yeah,
even the beginning of 2024 is like you think the good times are going to last forever until they don't, and then you're just like, oh shit, like
right,
you got to
exactly.
be ready for that.
So the only thing I'm really believing in this economy is that people are still working.
Mm.
Like, getting back to what we said earlier, if there was tough jobs and there were no jobs, I would, like, yeah, I'd be really nervous right now. But people
Right.
are working, and people are ready to buy if it's right,
Yep.
and you've got, like, transferred wealth too. A lot of mom and dads are helping their kids, so they're being able to get into homes and so forth. So there's possibilities, but I just think there's such a gap right now of what they can actually afford, and what's out there right now.
Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time to talk. I was super interesting. Thanks for all the nuggets that you shared.
Yeah, well, I got one more thing. I really
Sure.
want people, what they should understand too, if you're going to be successful, is you got to give too.
Mhm.
It's not only money, but time, expertise, whatever. I mean, it's
Mhm.
so important to give. I give, but I don't give for it to come back to me. I give because you're supposed to do it, and I enjoy it, and it feels good, to be honest with
Yeah,
you. But
definitely does.
if anybody's listening to this, and you want to climb the life, don't be scared to give, and give as you go. Don't think, well, when I get more money, I'll get. No, do it. Find a way to do it,
Mhm.
because it's what you should be doing, and it's awesome. But
And the more people that had that mindset, I think the better off a lot of us would be. So thanks for
Absolutely.
sharing that. It's good to hear from someone like yourself, who has a long track record and is in a position to do that. So thanks again for sharing all that stuff and taking the time to talk today.
You got it, Randy.
All right, buddy. Have a good day.